Hello, friends. I am Anshuman Tiwari, and this is my podcast and YouTube channel, Manage Better. I believe that irrespective of where we land in life, we can all get better by managing what we have. Right? It is all about keeping, keep staying on the improvement path. We have no control on where we land, but we can certainly control where we can go. So we definitely control the journey. And in this series of podcasts, as many of you who are regular subscribers would have understood, that I am trying to bring to you speakers, consultants, authors who connect with the concept of manage better, who are living proof of the fact that we can all get better irrespective of where we are. And of course, for past episodes, you can check my podcast on Apple, Google, or Spotify. You'll have to search for Manage Better with Anshuman Tiwari. And, there is a YouTube channel as well. So, depending on whether you are the video type or audio type, we have both versions for you. And of course, all these episodes are also available on my website called managebetter.in. And I'm trying to bring more and more speakers to this platform so that we can all learn together. So today's guest, it's a complete honor and privilege to bring today's guest to you because he is a mentor to many quality professionals in my and age group or the peer group that I have. Uh, he's a legend in our quality services world, and in his career, he helped two very important companies, or very you can say legendary companies in India, to have the quality DNA injected into them. You won't find a person with two such credentials in a single career. So one was, of course, the Tata Group, where he brought together or was instrumental in making sure that the Tata Business Excellence model, which is of course based on the Malcolm Baldrige National Quality Award model, he was part of the core group which brought the model to the Tata Group, and the Tata Group is now very famous about the implementation. So that was one. And the second part of his career, or the second huge credential, is around injecting the quality DNA into Infosys, right? So I bring to you Satyendra Kumar. Satyendra Kumar, or Kumar to all his friends and colleagues, and for us in his you know mentee group, we can say. He's an independent advisor today and consultant to several large and medium enterprises. As I said, his most impactful roles were, of course, with the Tata Group and the Infosys journey that he had, where he headed quality, productivity, tools, reuse functions for several years, more than a decade, and mentored several quality professionals who are now holding position in other companies, which I believe is his true legacy, right? So the companies, of course, benefited immensely, but creating a pool of quality professionals who are today, plying their trade is the most important legacy. He was, of course, just to go through some achievements, and I can't obviously go through all. He was the chief technical advisor to CIA Institute of Quality for a few years, and then has received the Lifetime Achievement Award for Quality and Business Excellence as well. He has been advisor to several forums, um, including forums very, I would say, influential forums like the University Grants Commission of India, and being part of the Committee on Higher Education Assessment, a member of the board of Quest Forum of the US and Indian Institute of Science. He was on the Wisconsin State Award Committee, and numerous other similar achievements. But this podcast, this episode is not about Kumar's achievements alone. He is extremely eager and keen, even at this stage in his career, to help other quality professionals and expand the scope and influence of the profession in itself, which is where I always take guidance from him, and thought that this would be a wonderful opportunity to bring his guidance to all of you. So Kumar, welcome to the show, and over to you for some opening comments, please.
Hey, Anshuman, it's so nice to see you after a long time. You're looking very smart, I must say. Uh, Well, on the topic, it's an interesting topic. In fact, I am a honest believer that unless you learn, you apply, you become better and better and learn to manage better because there are too many things to be done. There is no way you can achieve success in life. So much so, I would say whether you want to be a quality man, you want to be a great professional, great manager, or a great leader. There's no other way but to keep learning and keep iteratively becoming better and better. Whether it's a planning, whether it's execution, whether it's a time management, whether competencies, and all facets of which will take you forward, you need to learn and keep improving yourself. Um, for me, where the discipline, so-called quality management, as you mentioned, and thank you for a wonderful introduction. Um, I would believe, if I stretch it, that whole game of quality management centers around this theme of whether we call it improvements, whether we call it a continuous improvement. Some guys also say breakthrough improvements, but fundamentally it is a game of becoming better and better. So very, very appropriate topic. Nice to see that you're doing a lot of work in that area.
Thanks, Kumar. So what the format of the session, of course, Kumar, is very simple. We want to learn from you. So I have spoken to some fellow professionals and collected a set of questions. I have never seen you surprised, so I am hoping that I can maybe surprise you with one or two questions. But to ease into the discussion, the first and foremost, the curiosity about with many of us is that we have seen you probably already when you were fairly successful in your career. You were head of the quality function at Infosys and had previous stints with Tata's and other companies as head of quality or similar roles, right? So we have seen the finished product. And as always, the finished product is only the outcome of the process. What was your quality journey, or what was your process to get where you got, and maybe how you got into quality, in fact, and the journey, a little bit about that, so that our listeners. And the reason I'm asking this question is very simple: is that I want to drive home the point that the most successful individuals today, professionals today, are a product of a journey and a process.
Thank you, Anshuman. Well, it's a long story, but after my post graduation, was doing research, but there was a need for a job, so I started applying, and I wasn't as smart or intelligent as today's youngsters are, or as guys like you are. So I happened to be in Delhi, so I was applying for Union Public Service Commission, UPSC, got few jobs, things like metrology, which is a kind of weatherman, Punjab National Bank, and then there was a third one called defense and some quality. So not knowing what to do, I just like the word defense and quality. So just decided to join that. More of a blind date, I would say. Having said that, I think I started enjoying it, and over years have immensely enjoyed it. There are many facets of quality which I can say I was really impressed with. For example, I'll say 2-3 things. If you look at one of the things which I liked in quality management is that it's something like an independent function which allows you to have a kind of an outsider's view where you can see the dynamics of the company, what's happening in the company, how things are moving around, the issues, the problems. And I think something that which no other discipline in any function in a company provides that. So that is something which I really liked because you could see the life of a company, how things are moving. And that also gave me a great opportunity to learn because, I came from scientific discipline those years, but then having come into that, it really taught me how companies function. And that was really a very cornerstone for me to really do better things. Second thing, which the opportunity this discipline provides you in terms of meeting top management. It's a different thing that many people don't use that, but it's a tremendous opportunity this discipline provides you to meet your CEOs, CXOs. And I, for one, in my career, had wonderful interactions with the people, like Mr. Ratan Tata, or in Infosys, Mr. Murthy, or Nandan Nilekani, or many, many more. And I think that was something which I cherished heavily. And I take pride in that the talking to them, understanding what they look for and how corporations are run, and something that really created a huge value in me, and which in turn I could do better job in my life. So that's something like I moved on in quality. I still enjoy it. It's a passion for me. I still work with few companies. So it's just great discipline for me. By chance, blindly, it came into my lap.
No, I think sometimes these blind dates are the best dates, Kumar. So maybe it was destined and like this. And I was only wondering that, in many ways, you are a weatherman and a banker. Any company that hired you or worked with you could bank on you, and you
Very
could
nice.
always see the future. So, you in that sense, you were always, so the traits were there, and you would have done really well in both those professions had you chosen
Very nice.
chosen that as well. So, thanks, Kumar, for that, unique peek into your past, right? And I just want to remind our viewers and listeners is that all successful, journeys and what we see as success today have a past and a lot of hard work and perseverance, and that is the theme of these sessions is manage better. Kumar is a living example of how each year can be better than the previous year, and you can achieve a lot more in the same lifetime if you keep getting better. So, Kumar, moving to the next question. This is a little bit on the quality profession as such, right? So, your views on how quality as a profession has changed or is changing, and in the last, I'm not saying 50 years, maybe last decade or so, which is a little bit more active memory for all of us. How the profession changed or is changing?
Yeah, I think uh, discipline, as all of us know in quality, that it's been a fairly legacy is almost 100 years that
Yeah.
it has gone through all kinds of phases, from inspection to control to quality assurance to management, quality management, total quality management, and whole lots of gurus. You heard the names, Schuart to Deming, Juran, Crosby, Feigenbaum, you name it, Ishikawa's. They provided the direction, the thought leadership to this discipline till few decades back. I would also, I think last one or two decades, there has been a less work on the conceptual frameworks, but more so on the tool side, whether it's a QFD or Pokayoke or Kaizens, benchmarking, and Lean and Six Sigma, which is very popular the last few decades. Having said all that, I think somewhere, because of you can appreciate, we haven't heard in last few decades any gurus names either, thought leaders names either. So somewhere the discipline has not taken a very, very strong positive upswing. I would, when I look at the companies, when I meet the quality managers regularly, I'm finding the discipline is more or less becoming like a hygiene kind of a thing, which is essential. But the top leadership doesn't see in the professionals, quality professionals, a very large value set providers. They don't see them from that angle, and that's unfortunate. I'm also seeing a trend, unfortunately, where the positioning of quality folks last decade or so has been coming down in the hierarchies. And naturally, one needs to ponder and one needs to think that why it's happening when there are not many gurus which are visible. They not much of conceptual, work has happened other than the tools kind of work. So somewhere the discipline has sort of slipped through in this evolution.
Mm.
Probably it needs to be relooked at it, what can be done much more into that. And I also find there's too much of reliance on the certifications by the companies and corporations as well as the professionals. They find quite a bit of comfort in just being stuck to certain few certifications to be done here and there. And so overall the discipline is delivering a value, no doubt about it. But the hygiene perspective, essentiality, it has taken over. And somewhere the top leaderships is feeling that these guys, quality professionals, need to do something much more. So that's the way I have been, looking at it for last few decades. And there are many reasons also I have over period thought through that, okay, what probably but I think one single most reason I sometimes, if I have to say, is that there's probably too much of micro focus on the product side, product engineering, product development, and somewhere the folks have forgotten the larger picture. So in our conversation, as you ask me, probably I'll be able to highlight some of that.
Sure. I think Kumar, well said, because this is you have articulated it really well, because the symptoms, of course, are that the quality profession is slipping in the hierarchy lower, and the influence is not the same as it used to be, right? So I think that's probably a valid summary. So that kind of segues us into our next question as well. So having said that, being where we are, how can quality professionals today, and I don't mean today as in the era of pandemic, for a moment, if we ignore the pandemic, if we can, in general in the industry, how can quality professionals stay relevant and, or perhaps even improve their influence in these times? And then, obviously, I don't, my audience for this question is not the freshers and not the very senior people. It's the people who are still on the journey and can make a difference or can influence, can increase their influence. So what would be your suggestion or tips or ideas for them?
Good question, Anjuman, and it's a very favorite question of mine too. That because quality folks are the backbone of whole mechanism or the function. Now, I do see that quality professionals and folks understand their kit fairly well in terms of models, frameworks, techniques, whichever they are in, whether you're in Six Sigma or Lean, or whether you are in a particular, implementing a particular model or a framework, they seem to know that pretty well. So where do they lack? But I find that they're not so effective in companies. When I meet a very large number of professionals, I find they're not very effective in spite of knowing the core content. And I think there are 2-3 factors or a few factors which I would recite that if they can work on, will help them tremendously. And the first and foremost is that they need to really spend a lot of time in understanding companies' business, companies' challenges, companies' risks, because I really feel that they don't really make an effort to understand that much. They tend to get into their day-to-day jobs, whatever they're working on, and that they carries them away from what they should be doing. And today's world, unless you connect, unless you really understand that business, what's happening in the market, what's kind of a competitive pressures are coming in to the company, what sort of a risk company is facing in, you will not be able to use your kit to find appropriate solutions. You will be just using it blindly. And I think that's an area which cautiously they should work on.
Yeah.
Second point is, as I mentioned initially, that the discipline provides you ample opportunity to meet senior management. But my experience has been that for some reason, quality guys self-inflicted that they want to shy away from meeting the senior guys. And that the reason could be because the first point, as I mentioned, they don't understand the business. So
Yeah.
what will they talk to? Okay. I recall many times in the company, some of the in Infosys business unit heads will call me, "Hey Kumar, can this quality guy whom you forced him to report to me, but I don't understand his language. Neither does he understand my language. So can he report down the line?"
Mm.
Last year I was, I think a year and a half back, I was doing a program for some quality heads of many quality heads of companies. And the first point I asked them was that, how many of you have you met in last 3 months, your CEO? Okay.
Mm.
You won't believe, forget 3 months. They have not met in 9 months, in 90% of them. Okay. So if you do not cautiously make attempt, opportunities are plenty. You will not be really able to understand what the CXOs are looking for, what problems they have, what challenges they have. Today's world, they are not so much worried about the product engineering. They're worried about what to sell, what to make, where to make, oh, my margins are problem, etc., etc. So there is a very important perspective. All quality professionals should seriously find any opportunity
Yeah.
to meet. I used to say to some of my direct reports, and if you may recall, that if you meet Nandan or Murthy in the lift for 30 seconds, can you talk to him? Can you make your talk fruitful with him? So that's the challenge. The third aspect, I would say, and I'm a very firm believer that quality guys not only find problems in a company, opportunities in a company to improve, and they know what can be done, but their ability to implement and execute that change has not been very great. Now,
Mm.
none of the models, unfortunately, they tell you what to do, but they don't tell you how to implement a change. Change management has been a very classical discipline over many decades. But I think that's an area which professionals must work on, to see that I know what to do, but they often fail. They often are ineffective because they don't know how to take it forward. And that's the discipline where they can acquire much more and a better competencies to make a difference to the company, to effect a large change in the company, because that is the central role they have in the company. Nobody else has that kind of a role which they have in the company, to not only identify problems, but find solutions appropriate to companies' context. And that's what they need to do. And then lastly, I think I'm not taking too long a list. They need to go beyond certifications and frameworks. Of course, frameworks and standards have given a huge value in terms of wonderful practices. All of us have grown and really grew up in learning from that. But if you follow blindly, if in a company you are implementing something and the senior guy, guy says, "Why are we doing that?" The typical answers I have seen, "Because ISO 9000 requires it, or CMM requires it," rather than explaining
Mm.
how it can help you and what can be done in our context and what we can take it forward in a better manner. So these are the few points I would think that besides their core uh, contents, which professionals know, if they work on it, they could be extremely effective.
No, I think extremely words of wisdom, Kumar. All the points resonate, but the last one, I've seen it many times in my own career, and I'm sure many of our colleagues will relate with it, that our job is not to educate the company or these professionals in the company. Of course, if in the process of execution somebody gets better in education, it's fine, but it's also to get stuff done. Whatever is taken up, what is important to the company, that must get done. And that is where, as you say, sometimes quality professionals have been found wanting, and that's probably in the last decade or two one of the areas where we need to get better. So, so I think the other point very well articulated, Kumar, was around the so-called elevator speech, right? So, and I actually have experienced it myself, having received this guidance from you earlier. I actually did run into Nandan. This was many years ago in the lift while we were at Infosys, and he did ask me, "So how's your program going?" And to my delight, because of the coaching I had received from you, I was ready. I was ready, and I utilized those 30 seconds, 1 minute, and it remains a highlight of my career. Actually, if somebody asks me even today, that 1 minute defines how years of practice actually comes beneficial in one moment. You don't know when the moment will arrive, right? So thanks for articulating that, Kumar. And so we'll move on slightly.
In fact,
Sure.
on that, just interjection, I still recall that our chairman Narayan Murthy in Infosys had this habit of asking if somewhere he meets you, what's new?
Hmm.
And I tried that on many of my folks, what's new? And the typical answer used to be nothing new, rather than talking about it, the passion, what you're involved with. So I think that's a grooming which people need to imbibe.
No, very well put, Kumar. Moving on, and this is pretty much the last question or of some kind, and it has come from our own Haresh Amre. So thanks to him. And he's basically asking about what new trends, high-level trends, are you seeing in the industry? How is the industry, or industry as in our own quality profession, moving into other professions or receiving other professions or shake hands with other professions? And if that's a concern, how can we respond? And the backdrop of this question, Kumar, is the field of automation that is now, slowly, I won't say taking over, but getting embedded into software engineering, productivity, quality, and those kind of fields. So
Yeah.
with the robotics and automation in general, quote unquote, encroaching into the classical fields, what is your view, and how do we respond?
Yeah. No, so Anshuman, I'll rather answer this in a little, larger way, because it's not just about, few things, but what can be probably. It's more than the trends. I find that certain things can be done in a better manner by the quality profession themselves, okay, or by the quality functions themselves. Because the world is changing. It has always been changing, but I think last 1 or 2 decades, the changes has been very phenomenal. Whether customers' expectations on the product quality are, very, very high at a very low price. Delivery times are really getting squeezed. Margins are getting squeezed. And regulatory aspects are increasing day by day, becoming more stringent, etc. So I think overall, when I look at the whole discipline, and I'll come to the automation as well, but I think a few pointers I wanted to mention which are important. And I think first pointer is that if we can also, besides say normal discrete processes in the companies, if quality guys can also look at the business process in a more proper manner. And I'm not talking of BPMs of earlier years which was driven by the IT functions, but I'm talking of that very often we know our processes, but we are not been able to connect to the business process. I mean, we may keep talking a language of, depending on whichever, context of you are in. For example, IT guys, even forget the junior, even the senior level, when I hear most of the time that, stand-ups and burnout charts and sprint velocities, wonderful, very nice. But how do we ensure that really it's the bigger picture, the business process connect is there? And that's the reason they very often, they're not been able to sometimes articulate the value at the outcome level. Second point, I would say the risk-based perspective in the process discipline. I think many standards have started talking about it. But what it really means, I don't see on the floor. What it means is it's not sufficient to identify problems. And that is what quality guys do. And then find solutions for that or fix them. What is more important is to be able to identify potential problems in the company, the potential risks of the company in all areas of the company. And then look for your toolkit, your process kit, and your forms and methods and methodologies. So that the company, your effort can get prioritized. rather than the CEO's risks are very different. He looks at it that I really don't know whether my sales and marketing guys are studying the right thing, doing the right thing, because they don't know what products to produce, what products markets are going to like. Okay. And how good is my strategic implementation? So I think there is a need, very, very strong need to look at the risk-based kind of a perspective in the companies rather than blindly keep only finding problems and correcting them. Third thing, I would say the business outcome focus is essential by all quality folks, which often get missed out. And I talked about it earlier because sometimes they don't even understand the business itself. So whether it's a client experience, whether it's optimizing your operational aspects, or whether it's revenue growth, etc., they have to be completely mindful. Because if they don't even look at how, I recall in my earlier years in Infosys, our CEO, not CEO, the CFO, great Mondas, would pull me down, clearly ask me, Kumar, you're saying 10% productivity you improved, your team has done last year. Where did it go? I'd neither seen margins, nor I'd seen growth. So what are you saying? And I think my biggest learning in Infosys was, besides that I could interact with the top leaders, was that I really learned that how do we relate my quality management impacts to the business outcomes, and particularly so the financial outcomes. Because if you don't do that, you will be somewhere, really not be given that kind of
not relevant.
Not relevant. The other thing I would say is quality organizations need to relook at how they are organized. I still find, other than manufacturing, at least I learned quite a bit, but particularly the IT and many other kind of industries, they're almost 90-100% effort is going only in the product development and engineering side. I think they need to look at the quality of sales, quality of marketing, quality of strategic implementation, quality of infrastructure, work environment. They need to look at, everybody talks of collaboration in the company. Okay. Who looks at what is the quality of collaboration in the companies and what needs to be done to have a better collaboration? Many people in our standards, Baldrige, etc., talk about alignment and integration. Okay. But who looks at this quality of alignment and integration, how well it is moving in the company, what needs to be done? Because they have a very larger impact in the company. Today, CXO's problems are not so much product. CXO's problems are many of these things in the company. So I think there is a need for quality functions to distribute their effort, not just put in only in one bucket of so-called product development and engineering. The other part as automation, you mentioned, I think that has always been the case in the industries. Manufacturing learned a lot over years. And today, so much is happening in the front of technology, whether, as you mentioned, from AI to machine learning, robotics, IoT, cybersecurity, you name it. I mean, there's so much of blockchain work. The opportunities are there. Technology is available. And it will definitely, if you don't use, build a lot of competitive pressures on you. Now, there is a learning from the past, tremendous learning from the past. As manufacturing industry provided those learnings. And in a very simple sense, if you go back and look at case studies of companies who applied automation, there are 5-6 areas where there have been problems. One, of course, the fear of losing their jobs. The employees have that. In any industry has that. So how can you allay that? The skill gaps. In most of the implementation, there were large skill gaps. How do you ensure that the workers understand, whosoever are going to use those applications? Though we know that, but often it is not done in a very, very proper manner. Proper dependency management, that I found is one of the largest problems, where how do you ensure the relevant stakeholders are a part of that so-called the project team or the teams which manage this change? That's a very, very large issue in the company. The flexibility of your applications or your change which you're creating the automation, because regulatory demands keep changing. It was found that 20-30 years back when manufacturing used to go for automation, Uh, Applications were done, technology was done, but later on changes are there. Customers are demanding customization of products. The
Mm-hmm.
regulatory demands are changing very heavily. So how can you build in that kind of flexibilities in when you insert technology in the company? So and so forth. I think these were the fundamental challenges were faced by the earlier companies, and if we can handle them more appropriately, it will be really beneficial. One other pointer you mentioned, I haven't thought through that whether the quality guys are changing their professions. Uh, See, I think that is a has always been the case that if you, depending on you want to be a technocrat or you want to be a journalist, okay.
Mm-hmm.
So if you are good in your trade and if you want to remain a specialist surgeon, then you got to choose to be a whatever, eye
Yeah.
surgeon or a neurosurgeon or whatever you are. But if you wish to, after knowing knowledge of each discipline, want to be a physician or internal medical doctor, so that's a choice you make. Uh, Anywhere you go, unless you're good, unless you're effective, you're not going to make a difference.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
keep working on it, keep finding your directions and paths.
Yeah, I think that completely aligns with our concept of manage better as well. That we have something, and if we keep getting better, we get to our goals. And well said on automation. I think I like the fact that how you put it, that it is neither new nor going away. So embracing it is and then changing with the times is like every other industry in the past has done, is the only response. So Kumar, pretty much at the end, I ask one question in the end, which is usually a very crisp and simple response from most people, and I expect that from you as well. Um, One book that you would recommend to our listeners, which you think could make a change. It need not be a quality book, any book.
Yeah, so Anshuman, not a crisp answer, but because I see a lot of stuff and I read a wide variety of things, very difficult to say what people will like. Generic, last book I read, I think few months back, it was called Elephant Whisperer.
Mm,
And I liked, it's by Dr. Anthony Lawrence,
mm,
where a relationship between an animal and human being. So if you are fond of forests and jungles, you probably would like that. For quality professionals, I would say I don't find many books today. I don't find many either quality magazines today, but read business magazines. That's
mm.
my way of looking at it, whether it's a Harvard Review, whether it's Fortune, Wired, Bloomberg, Entrepreneur, there are a whole lot of them. So read business magazines. I think that will give you a better insights into companies, and therefore you can refine your toolkits better.
So thanks, Kumar. Very well said. I think the last point should be a major alert for all our listeners that we probably know the quality profession a little bit, and what we don't know is sometimes where we have to put our effort as well. So with this, we wrap up the episode, Kumar. Thank you very much for your time. I'm sure our listener will treasure this episode. Um, we are at the cusp of Diwali, so very happy Diwali to you, Kumar, and to all
Thank
our
you,
listeners.
thank you, thank you, and you too.
Um, thanks, Kumar. To my listeners, this episode will be released, of course, soon, hopefully around Diwali time. And if you like the content, keep listening, keep subscribing, and stay in touch, stay safe. And with more such content, I will be coming to you in the coming weeks and months. And till then, till the next episode, manage better. Thank you.
Thank you, Anshuman.